Good morning, everybody, and a good happy Friday to you all. I hope everyone's had a marvelous week and that you're just getting ready and that build up for the weekend. So welcome along to Google Digital Garage this morning for our bite-sized learning session on create eye-catching graphics for your presentations. So we're going to be getting creative this morning and helping you to ensure that you're able to build some enticing and compelling graphics for your digital marketing pursuits, catching the eye of your audience and customers and getting people to click through to you. Really good, important way to structure the session this morning. So my name is Glenn and I'm a trainer for Google's free skills training program, Google Digital Garage. I'm an experienced digital skills trainer. And I have a background in business consultancy and management and helping businesses really define and kind of understand opportunities to help them to grow and expand their operations. So again, create eye-catching graphics is a really important way to help us to stand out. So I'm hoping this will provide you with some opportunities too. Now, I'm not on my own. I'm accompanied by the wonderful Mohammed. Mohammed's in the chat function. So if you have a look to the right or underneath, depending on the device that you're using, you're going to see Mohammed there with a little blue spanner just by the side of his name. He's going to be there for the next 15 minutes with us. He's going to be commenting. So do pop in and actually say hello. Say hello to Mohammed, say hello to me. Interact with each other, ask any questions. Mohammed's going to answer those for you as we go. As we do work through this short but sweet and very informative session. Now, just remember that we do have the Google Digital Garage website, and that is g.co/digital garage. On there, you can find courses, webinars, just like this one, that you can sign up to, 15 minutes, some of them, an hour, others, is to give you a real variation of the training that you can receive. It's all no cost. So sign up to as many sessions as you'd like to sign up to, as many times as you'd like to as well, so you can get the perspective of multiple trainers in terms of how they do approach some things like digital marketing strategies, social media strategies, building your CV and cover letter even. There's a whole host of really, really useful content out there. Okay, now because this is a bite-sized session, let's get straight into it. So let's have a look at what we're going to be covering for you this morning. So we've split the session into two parts. The first part we're going to be looking at is understanding the impact of great graphics. And secondly, we're going to be looking at top tips for making your presentations pop. We certainly want to make our presentations pop. Now we're going to run through this and get straight into section one. So understands the impact of great graphics. Again, pop into chat if you're experienced in this area or if you've had a go, and let us know your experience, kind of how things are going. It's really great as a community. We need to understand what's going on, and we'd like to understand where you're at and perhaps some of the challenges that you are experiencing. So use the chat exactly for that. It's a great way for us to build a like-minded community. So let's have a look at a stat. 55% more information is retained when graphics are used. So this is all part of us, our digital footprint, and really starting to impact our audience with great graphics, with information, and of course we want to be memorable. That's really the key there. So 55% more is retained when graphics are actually used, because maybe we see the picture, that whole phrase of a picture tells 1,000 stories. There are phrases which kind of capture the importance, I think, of imagery and graphics and painting that picture in the mind. So when people hear information, they're likely to remember only 10% of that information 3 days later. So just on a general kind of text verbal basis. However, if a relevant image is paired with that same information, then people retained 65% of that information 3 days later. So that is a significant amount of information to be retained. Again, that could be memorable, that could help people essentially remember what site did that come from, what social media profile, for example, where did that information come from? And I want to go back and have another look. So a really great stat for you to retain there. Now, why do we need to use graphics? Well, we include graphics in presentations because we'd like to tell a story. The whole world around us is full of symbols, graphics, and icons that help us to understand what it is that we perhaps need to do. Things like street signs, for example, signs on your bathroom, even cooking instructions on your microwave. They have images to help you. It's guidance. These are icons that we start to understand. They start to have a slightly generic feel about them and indicate things that help us to move what we want to do forward as quickly as is possible. I can just see the cat in the chat there who's come in and said hi, good morning to you. Thanks very much indeed for saying hello this morning. It's really, really great to have you here. So images do facilitate understanding. They help to overcome language barriers. Again, there can be universal or internationally recognized symbols, which all bring us and put us on the same page. So they can help overcome language barriers and improve retention. But images also help us to tell a story. You know, as a race, as a planet, storytelling and narratives have been passed down generation to generation. They feel very built into our recognition of being part of how the world actually works. They spark our imagination and they help us to conceptualize even the trickiest of concepts. So imagery can be a really good guidance tool for you and of course then for your audience and to your viewers. So we're going to explore a few tips and a few rules for creating graphics that excite your audience and hold their attention, because again, we want to hold their attention and again, bring into play that 55% retention level. So we want to make it memorable. We want to represent different concepts. As I say, you know, rather than having to craft a whole series of words to try and explain something, maybe a picture can do it better for you. So in section 2, here's some of the top tips that we're going to be talking about to make our presentations pop. It's a great phrase. Again, you want it to pop out of the screen. You want it to be memorable. You want people to think, yeah, that's something for me. So keeping your font simple. Is something that is quite often overlooked, and sometimes we think, you know, perhaps some of the fancier fonts will do, but what we also need to think about is the accessibility to our audience of some of the fonts that you're talking about. So fonts are one of the first things that people see when they're looking at a design. In order to make it easy for your audience to understand the information as quickly as possible, try and limit yourself to, you know, maybe 1 or 2 fonts. One for the heading, the larger area, and one for the body text. It means then it's just more recognizable. It's easier for the minds to actually process, and it tends to then give you a nice element of flow in terms of what it is that you're trying to represent. So if you're making sure that your fonts are easy to read, then the eye, the recognition element of the brain, can find it trickier perhaps to read or understand some of those more complex fonts. The brain will then take longer to interpret it. And again, time is crucial, attention spans are crucial, and anything that isn't potentially user-friendly is something which could make your user move to another site, which is all important in terms of your own website retention and clicking through and getting all that traffic that you need. So you can see the example on the right has got quite an assortment of fonts in, and I have to say that doesn't really appeal to me a great deal. It looks a bit messy, like someone's just randomly put in a few different fonts, whereas the version on the left-hand side looks more like an advert. It's more recognizable, it's clear, and it's very easy to read. Okay, so now we've got the same concept really in relation to the numbers of colors that you're using. So the next guideline that we've got for great graphics is limiting your color palette to no more than 3 primary colors. So your primary colors are going to be your reds, your blues, your greens, all the primary colors. Again, if you're interested in color and color research, you can use your search engine of choice to have a look at colors, primary colors, and how colors are perhaps best represented online or for businesses like yours. So try to make your colors complementary. We want a highlight color, a secondary highlight, and perhaps a neutral color. again, to give it that good blend. It's almost like giving you fashion tips in a way, in terms of how we look and how we present ourselves as human beings when we dress. We try to look good, so therefore we also want the things that we put on page to look good as well. The colors should contrast with one another so that you can play with the lights and the darks, and you can use these to draw attention to the key information and highlight the areas on the page that you want to draw your audience's attention to. By creating consistency across your slide deck, if you're creating one of those, or your presentation, your audience will come to understand the meaning and be able to pick out the important information quickly, which is important. Again, a very generic use of color is red for something that perhaps needs to be amended or changed, green for go, red for stop. Again, that's the kind of part of the traffic light system in a number of countries, and it's something that we get used to. It's something that we will recognize as, oh, okay, if it's red, that's something we might need to really, really pay attention to and check everything's okay. So you can see in the second image that the changing colors don't really hold any meaning. They do just create confusion and give you extra unnecessary meaning. And again, they do, because you're expecting perhaps that each different color is going to represent something else, rather than it being, like on the left, perhaps a month-on-month comparison of revenue and where the growth is actually occurring. Okay, so we need to pay attention to hierarchy as well. Then you would be able to tell, perhaps on the first image, which is the most popular coffee. On the second image, you can't really do that. They're all on the same level, so we don't know if the cappuccino, the Americano, or the mocha is the most popular coffee. But when you're putting them on pedestals, almost like when people are getting their medals at the Olympics, then you can see which one has won the race there. So when it comes to fonts and text, it's a good idea to follow the rules that headings are the largest, then you've got subheadings, and then the body text. When it comes to colors, use your brightest colors to draw attention to the most important elements. And again, look at the color contrasts on that page. It really, really does stand out, and it really helps you to identify very quickly the coffees, even the fact that the number one coffee there is of a slightly different color in terms of the cup. Excellent, excellent way to represent those images. Use visuals to simplify ideas. Visuals aid comprehension, so we can use bar charts. They're really, really good for helping people to use data to make comparisons, as we saw on a couple of the examples. Maps are really, really good, as you can see here, in terms of place-based information. You've got those pins in the map, a bit like Google Maps there, showing you where USA, Brazil, Nigeria, South Africa, India, and Australia actually are. And again, it helps you draw the eye to the pins and understand, from our knowledge of the world, where it is that we need to go if we're looking for an international store. Now, consider vision inclusivity as well, to make sure that your presentation is accessible to everybody in the room. Again, use those consistent colors, use those strong color contrasts and bold fonts to ensure that your text is legible. Again, white background, so again, a darker color on a white background, as you can see from the top left. On the second example, we are using strong contrasts that really make that information stand out and pop, and the larger font on the right-hand side for the thank you, which really does stand out. And again, that's just all about the font size as well. So it can make a massive, massive difference. And that's really, really important to note. If you were thinking about which designs might be more accessible to somebody, perhaps with visual issues, visual difficulties, then you can start to work it in that way as well. Make sure that you're being as inclusive to your overall audience as is possible, so that you're appealing to everybody. Everyone's got the same right to receive and understand the same information where possible. So use big fonts, as we've mentioned as well. People do have varying eyesight strengths, but the people in the back of the room, for your really, really key presentation, might also have trouble seeing smaller fonts. So think about how far out you're trying to actually project your information to as well. Okay, so pop it in the chat. We've still got about a minute or so left. How you make your graphics stand out in your next presentation. We'd love to know that if you've got something coming up, perhaps you've got a takeaway from this session. You think, oh yeah, of course, contrasting colors, bigger fonts, consistent fonts. So let us know something that you're going to take away and change for the next time you make a presentation. So it's over to you. That's our call to action. Let us know what's going on and how you might change your next presentation to your MD or to your customers, depending on what you're doing your presentation for. Right, so we have now pretty much come to the end of this presentation. I'll just wait to see if anything does come through. Please remember to go on to the Google Digital Garage site and to sign up for more webinars just like these. Remember, there are our sessions: digital marketing strategy, social media strategy, writing for social media, lots and lots of ways to help you enhance your online presence. It's been a pleasure to be here this morning with you on this Friday morning. I really do hope that you have a good day and a good weekend to follow as well. And hopefully we will see you all again soon on another Google Digital Garage webinar. So have a fantastic day, and I will see you all soon. Goodbye.